A lot of y'all, have been taught, have been raised, have been bred to be chivalrous. You know what I'm saying? At any moment, man, you're supposed to break out the cape, go into the phone booth, break out the cape, and serve as a a drone, to serve as a knight in shining armor. But I'm here to tell you the truth about what chivalry actually is today, and some of the rules that kind of govern chivalry itself, so we can get that out of the way. Okay? So, you're supposed to open the door and, take off your coat so the lady doesn't get her feet muddy, and, you're supposed to defer, almost as if you're dealing with royalty, something like that, But I got an article, man, and I'm going to read this article. And the article, for the most part, kind of details some of the rules surrounding chivalry. And it's not exactly what you think it is, man. It ain't exactly what you think it is, bruh. So let me get right to that shit, man, since I had this rocky-ass beginning. Let me just get right to this shit. Right to it. All right. And before I begin, man, let me give a shout out to Vincent Lindsay. He became a new member of the Green Gorilla channel. Shout out to him. Big up to him. I got to give him a bomb for that. And there's another brother that hit me off, J3. He says, I love this countdown music. Salute to the G with the PhD. Shout out to him. Salute, sir. Shout out to him. So, look, man, here it is, man. Right here, man. It's an article. It's called 7 Rules of Medieval Knighthood That Will Make You Rethink Chivalry. There's no author here, but it's basically, the Business Insider, posted on July 27th, 2021. All right? Some things to make you think about chivalry a little bit differently than you do, because it ain't about romance, actually. I mean, chivalry etymologically is rooted to the word Chevrolet, and that's etymologically rooted to the French word for cavalryman. And I mean, God damn it, man. I'm not a French cavalryman, or neither any of you. So this is where we get this whole concept of, chivalry from. But a French medieval cavalryman. So the article starts off and says, people say chivalry is dead, like that's a bad thing, like that's a terrible thing. And there you got a knight, with the lance on his horse. He's a cavalryman, probably a member of the nobility. Of course, this is probably a reenactment, but you know how the story goes. If you're a knight, you're more than likely a member of the nobility, and you have the money your family does in order to pay for all of the equipment that's needed or that's necessary for you to perform as a knight in military capacity in medieval times. Okay? So anyway, in the popular imagination, chivalry seems to harken back to some mythical era when armored knights rode about the land going on quests, saving maidens, and fighting evildoers. I mean, that's what the movies tell us, right? You look at the movies, man, you see cats going on quests, the knights. They have some problem or some injustice that they have to deal with. And oftentimes, they protect and they serve the interest and rescue maidens and, ladies or members of the nobility, women of the nobility. And, they fight off the evil, right? But chivalry is really a word, and this is quotes here, that came to denote the code and culture of a martial estate, which regarded war as its hereditary profession. And that's Maurice King, who's basically making this quote, in a book called Chivalry. And yes, there is a scholar by the name of Maurice King. Here it is, right here. Here's Maurice King. He was a British historian specializing in the Middle Ages. His father had been the Oxford University head of finance and a fellow of Balliol College, Oxford. And after schooling at Winchester, Maurice began an undergraduate there. He was a contemporary and lifelong friend of Tom Bingham, later the senior law lord, as well as the military historian, Sir John Keegan, whose sister he married. And he was basically a damn Oxford professor, okay? That's what he was, all right? That's who the cat is, all right? So that's who he's making reference to in this article, okay? It's basically a code and culture of a martial estate that regarded war as its hereditary profession. These are basically soldiers, members of the nobility, that were soldiers hereditarily, okay? And Maurice King, the author of this article, writes, basically said that medieval chivalry had a major part in molding, quote unquote, noble values. And as a result, has had an impact felt long after troubadours, who are like songs, singers or whatever. They sing songs about the tales and the deeds of knights. All right? That's what they do. And so this code, this chivalric code, had an impact felt long after troubadours and jousting tournaments fell out of fashion. The romantic notion of the daring, pure-hearted knight errant lingers on even today. Now, one could argue this is like a white boy fantasy, actually. I mean, you can see this shit all up in the movies, man. Tales of these guys, engaging in noble pursuits or whatever the case may be, but we know the real history. We know the history of genocide. We know the history of colonialization. We know the history of slavery. That's the real history. At least from, our standpoint. Not a lot of nobility in that shit, but okay, well. Anyway, it's difficult to speak broadly about the medieval era in Europe, which is true because it's basically a time frame that encompasses several centuries and a whole continent. Generally speaking, however, in many cases, knights and medieval warriors served as a local lord's private military. Private military. E. Taylor, I don't even know what you're talking about, bro. I wouldn't block you. I don't know why you blocked either, but if you can't see, you gotta take that up with YouTube. You ain't the only one with some shit to say about YouTube, just in case you got that on your mind. Just in case that's on your brain. But anyway, I just saw that in glancing. Anyway, so we talking about men who basically served as their local lord's private mercenaries. And that meant that sometimes regional conflicts set a group of armed toughs tearing through the countryside and doing whatever the fuck they wanted. They just did whatever they wanted. They're the local lord's private military. So oftentimes they would run roughshod over the European continent, or regions within it, doing whatever they wanted. Who's going to challenge them, except for other men who are employed by contrary lords, or lords that are competing with one another over status, land, or power. Okay? So they did whatever they wanted for the most part. Now, the author of this article basically says codes of chivalry didn't take hold in a vacuum. There was no universal or uniform code of chivalry. And those codes that existed were often far more religious in nature than our modern concept of hold the door for ladies. They also cropped up in part to keep knights and warriors from acting on their worst impulses and attacking or extorting weaker individuals. Starting in the late 900s, that's AD, and lasting until the 13th century, a movement known as the Peace and Truce of God rose in Europe. Basically, the church imposed religious sanctions in order to halt the nobility from fighting among themselves at certain times and committing violence against locals, just basically, people from villages and shit like that. Okay? So don't commit acts of violence against the non-combatants. And you can think of these as rules for knighthood. Now, let me just say this. Anytime you have rules in place, that means the people are breaking them. I think that should go without saying. If there are rules in place, people are already breaking them, okay? Here you have some more pictures of noble knights. Fake knights, of course, contemporary reenactments. This is white boy fantasy. White boy fantasy. So 11023 oath, suggested by Bishop Warren of Beauvais, for King Robert the Pious and his knights, gives us a good sense of some of the unexpected rules warriors might be asked to adopt in response to their often violent behavior. So you're talking about a group of men who were hereditary mercenaries, all right? And the author goes on to say it includes some rather unusual injunctions, which are prohibitions, and illustrates the kinds of oath that parties were expected to swear after having been caught breaking the peace. According to Daniel Lord Smale and Kelly Gibson, who edited the source book Vengeance in Medieval Europe. And those are two Harvard professors, okay? Well, Daniel Lord Smale is a Harvard professor, but Kelly Gibson was writing with him at the time, and she was his dissertation student, okay? So anyway, a main idea behind the movement was to use spiritual sanctions to give people a break from all of the conflict and fighting that plagued certain areas at some points during the Middle Ages. So these are a group of guys who were fighting all the goddamn time, okay? They were always engaged in conflict. Just read Western history and you'll see the history of internecine warfare amongst the Germanic tribes of folks, man. In France, Germany, the Brits, the Goths, the Ostrogoths, the Franks, the Celts, they were engaged in internecine warfare for almost damn near 1,000 some odd years, okay? That's just something you should understand, okay? Anyway, with that in mind, here are some of Bishop Warren Beauvais, not Beauvais, but Beauvais, his proposed rule for knights, which indicates some truly bad and largely unchivalrous behavior on part of medieval warriors. So the first part of the code, or at least some rules that this Bishop Warren of Beauvais proposed as, a code for knights was, don't beat up random members of the clergy. And look, these people kidnapped the clergy, they smacked, punched, quartered, racked, tortured priests. You should just understand that. Priests were fair game, okay, until, this code, but they broke the code often, okay? So anyway, Bishop Warren of Beauvais barred knights from assaulting unarmed clerics, monks, and their companions, unless they were committing a crime, or unless it is in recompense for a crime for which they would not make amends 15 days after my warning. Now, look, a bishop has political power in the medieval world. That's something you should understand. They have the power to punish, imprison, to punish, to, basically inflict physical pain on people, corporal punishment, if they so desire, okay? And Gunnold or Bordeaux also condemned anyone who attacks, seizes, or beats a priest, deacon, or any other clergyman who is not bearing arms, shield, sword, coat of mail, or helmet, but is going along peacefully or staying in the house. So if they're not in possession of a weapon, don't beat them up. But they often did get beat up, okay? So instead of formally cursing the offenders, Gunnold vowed to excommunicate any attackers unless he makes satisfaction or unless the bishop discovers that the clergyman brought it upon himself by his own fault. So there were occasions in which priests got their asses whipped. Yeah. Nice whipped priest asses. So basically it's saying if the guy's unarmed, don't beat him up. But they often did beat them up. They often did hold them for ransom. They often did seize and attack them. Okay? Number 2. Don't steal livestock or kill farm animals for no reason. So there was an oath, and it included the injunction against making off with bulls, cows, pigs, sheep, lambs, goats, donkeys, mares, and untamed colts. Okay? It also came out against seizing mules and horses at certain times of the year. Now, if it's saying don't seize mules or horses at certain times of the year, well, what the fuck does that mean? I'll leave you to draw upon your own powers of imagination. So here's what they were told to say. I will not exact by extortion mules and horses, male and female, and colts pasturing in the fields from the 1st of March to All Souls Day, unless I should find them doing damage to me. There's the excuse. However, the Bishop of Beauvais allowed that knights could kill villagers' animals if they needed to feed themselves or their men. So in other words, they could just come out and take the animals because they're hungry. They're soldiers. They need food and sustenance. So they could just come take the villagers' shit. Let me get that. Let me have that. So let me see when All Souls Day is. Let me see this. All Souls Day. When is All Souls Day? All Souls Day in 2022. November. So you can't steal, and I'm assuming, that it pretty much holds true across time, but that's just an assumption, okay? Don't take it for the gospel. So from March, April, May, June, July, September, October, November, December. Well, November. So from December, January, February, for 3 months, you could just take what you wanted. And if you needed to eat, you could take it. So this other guy, Gunwald, had another proclamation. He also announced that any knight who robbed a poor person of a farm animal would be formally cursed. That's the equivalent to being ostracized, or I wouldn't necessarily say excommunicated, but it ain't like cursing somebody out. We have a different kind of way of thinking about what a curse is. We think it's something supernatural, but it was to some degree supernatural since these were priests, but they get If you were cursed, they could fuck you up. Put it that way. Anyway, number 3. Don't assault, rob, kidnap, and torture random people. And the author goes on to say, this rule should have probably gone without saying, but Bishop Warren of Beauvais felt that he needed to include it in the oath. The bishop wanted knights to swear against mistreating male and female villagers, sergeants, merchants, and pilgrims. This abuse, he cited, included robbery, whipping, physical attacks, extortion, and kidnapping for ransom. And if there is an inclusion in an oath for these guys to take, it must mean that they have done this shit. Okay? It has to mean that. Okay? Number 4, don't burn down or destroy houses unless you have good reason. Damn. Damn, don't burn down the house. Anyway, arson was a big no in the Bishop of Beauvais' oath for the most part. Exceptions were made in the event a knight discovered an enemy horseman, which is another cavalryman, another knight, or thief within a certain house. So if you harboring somebody that is the enemy or somebody who is the thief, they can burn your shit down. Okay? Sounds harsh, but Cowper writes that while wrath was a sin, vengeance is a cornerstone of the chivalric ethos. The harsh repayment justly given for an diminution of precious honor. Sound like some gangster shit to me, don't it? Sound like some gangster shit to me. So being angry, having a wrathful attitude is a sin, but vengeance is a cornerstone of the chivalric ethos. So if it happens to you, you have to pay it back. Somebody does something to you, you got to do it back. Otherwise, your honor will have been violated. Knights were also warned against plundering and stealing from the poor, even at the perfidious instigation of a local lord. So the local lord might, ask the knights to go take some shit from the poor or whatever the case may be. And they were warned against doing so. Cowper cites Allen of Lille's declaration that knights achieved the highest degree of villainy by supporting themselves by looting from impoverished people. Okay? Number 5, don't assist criminals. Knights had a bad rap in certain parts. Cowper writes that Allen of Lille once said that knights had the cruel nature of marauders and that soldiers have been made the leaders of pillaging bands. They have become cattle thieves. So they taking people's cattle and shit like that. They're pillaging and plundering your noble knights. Anyway, considering such a borderline criminal element, it's not surprising that the Bishop Warren of Beauvais wanted knights to swear not to harbor and assist any notorious public robber. He allows that if a criminal comes to a knight for protection, that the knight should either make amends for the wrongdoer, force him to make amends within 15 days, or deny him protection. So that's like, restitution. You gotta make it right. If you take something, you gotta pay it back, or you might have to pay more. Number 6, and this should be very important for all you chivalry guys out here. The guys here who, want to protect women at all costs. The guys who are sworn to, to honor and protect womanhood. which is a lot of niggas like this out here, no matter what they're doing. Basically, the oath included a stipulation telling knights not to assault noble women traveling without their husbands. Do you get it? Don't assault noble women traveling without their husbands. Don't rape noble women traveling without their husbands. It also expanded protection to those attending them. You know, like the people who comb their hair and make sure that their clothes are right, right? Along with widows and nuns in general. However, this shield was revoked if a knight should find them committing misdeeds against him. So look at this. Let's look at this again, man. Don't attack women unless they give you a reason. Now, this is in no way my endorsement of men attacking women. Okay? But it is a fact that chivalry has nothing to do with just allowing yourself to be subjected to violence by a woman. Man, this is like the police, bro. If the police smacks a police, if a female smacks a male police officer, what the fuck you think's gonna happen, man? Huh? I want you to tell me, what you think's gonna happen? Is she gonna get her ass knocked down? Or is she just gonna be able to get it off? If she punches, slaps, bites, or does some other ignorant shit, what you think is gonna happen to what the police gonna do? So what you think a military man is going to do, who has basically absolute power, man? What do you think is going to end up happening? And this was revoked, this protection was revoked if a knight should find them committing misdeeds against him. And this idea of like, you know, women don't get punished, this is some relatively new shit. Because they punish women all the time, man. They punish women all the time. They whipped them. They racked them, quartered them, put them in laughing stocks, boiled them. And they did the same shit to men. I'm not saying it was acceptable, but all I'm saying is it happened. But we got this notion, you know, that women were never harmed and never suffered any kind of punishment. And they never, you know, were subjected to any kind of scrutiny whatsoever. Like where are you dudes getting this shit from? And the only thing I can think that has any semblance to the concept is the Victorian era in fucking England, bruh. That's the only thing I can think of. Okay? All right? That's the only thing I can think of. The oath included a stipulation telling knights don't assault noble women. They didn't say regular wenches. Now you also should protect the women that are traveling with the noble women. It don't say the average women. Now does it? Anyway, the last rule is don't ambush unarmed knights from Lent to Easter. A major part of the Peace and Truce of God movement was declaring that fighting should not take place during certain parts of the year. Yale Law School's Avalon Project features a 1085 decree from Emperor Henry IV, which declares the peace should be observed. Check it out now. This is some crazy shit. Look, peace should be observed every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. On Apostles' feast days, and from the 9th Sunday before Easter until the 8th day after Pentecost. So don't fight on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. But fuck it. Go and get it in on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Get it in. But don't fight on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. Don't fight on Apostles' feast days. And don't fight during Easter. Okay? But after that, shit, fuck it. Back to business as usual. Go ahead on and smack motherfuckers up and kill them and stab them, lance them. Go ahead and get at it. So, I'm just, like people talk about chivalry. Well, chivalry's dead. Yeah, the shit is dead. Because having private military, a military class has been done away with. It's been dead. But this whole notion of chivalry, where, you're supposed to treat women like nobility, there is none of that, man. That shit doesn't exist. So I'm wondering, like, where in the popular imagination all this shit is coming from. It's not what you think it is. This is a code of mercenaries who swore allegiance to a local lord, who were kept and held in check by members of the ecclesiastical class. So, like, where's all of this, queen worship shit like that we got going on? Where is it coming from? I just don't understand it. And I ain't saying be disrespectful, but I mean, deferential? It seems like a lot of you motherfuckers are deferential, bro. Straight up. I mean, I see guys go back and forth about what women should be treated like, and you shouldn't talk to a woman a certain way. You might offend her sensibilities and shit like that. Like, you think these cats was worried about that? You think these guys was worried about that shit? These cats will strap your ass on the back of a horse, man, with your hands tied behind your back and put your ass in a pit and let you sit there for days and days without eating. So yeah, chivalry is dead, man. You got any questions you want to ask, man, you can ask them now. You want to come join in? I think I got the chat bot going. But if nobody wants to have a conversation about this shit, I'm about to break off. I just want to make a quick public service announcement. Stop all this crazy ass deferential shit. Like, defer to who for what? Why? Defer to who for what? And why? Defer to who for what and why? And that's my issue with this shit. You got a lot of guys walking around like, it's their job to protect every woman like, like she's a member of the nobility or some shit like that. Like, for what? So BK Born Shaheed says, okay, let me play devil's advocate. If you're killing and pillaging for the crown of the clergy, it's only right they get to us. I don't understand the question, though. I just, I don't understand that question. A. Wilson's Go says, great info, so many folks moving around without the true definitions of words. much less the context. And that's the reason why I did the show. I'm not saying go out and be disrespectful. I'm not saying go out and, you know, be rude to anybody. That's not what I'm advocating for. But I mean, deferential? Why? Why be deferential? Like the whole idea that, you know, for any random motherfucker you don't even know, you're supposed to just lay it down. Why? Ghetto Ish says, even in Victorian times, it was not what everyone thought. Anyway, saying the Knights, BK Born Shahid then comes and says, saying the Knights were allowed to do some of the same things in their personal capacity they were obligated to do in the name of duty. Okay, yeah, well, I mean, you know, your Lord might say one thing, but these guys tried to put a check on, you know, they basically, this oath for the peace of God was, you know, basically enacted in order to try to, you know, put a damper on these guys running roughshod. That's what it was about. And no, not every woman was included under the, you know, the aegis or the shield of protection. Not all of them. Now, I'm pretty certain that, you know, there was no, you know, permission of women just going around, just men just going around, or knights going around just arbitrarily beating up women or any other men. But I'm sure it did happen. I'm sure it did happen. But this shit ain't what you think it is. It's the code of cavalrymen. That's what it is. So stop all this chivalry shit, man. Cut it out, man. Ain't none of you motherfuckers out here medieval cavalrymen, bruh. None of you. So stop that shit. And stop making women, man, make you defer to them like they fucking members of the nobility or some shit like that. Treat them like equals, man. That's what they say they want anyway. Just treat them like people. If you want to open the door, okay, go ahead. You want to, you know, put your, you know, your coat down, go ahead. You want to walk on the outside of the sidewalk, go ahead. If you want to pay all the bills, go ahead. You know, if that's what you want to do, go ahead. That's on you. I don't see shit here about paying bills. They ain't even have bills like we got bills. I mean, they had bills, but because they had debt, but not in the same way we talking about it. You got to take care of everything. Like that shit, I told you guys a long time ago. This whole notion of women don't work and men go to work, that's some bullshit, man. That's some newfangled shit created by the Industrial Revolution, and specifically after, you know, the society moved from an agrarian base to an industrial based culture. And the economy moved in the direction of, you know, industrialization. Prior to that time, everybody was working, and they were working in a localized parochial area. All this, he goes off to work. No, the work is right there on your form. So this, you know, I go to work and I pay the bills. Like that's some, what is this shit? And the fact that so many men are bought into this is proof positive that, man, you can tell, man, a sucker will believe anything. A sucker will fall for anything. So basically, don't beat up random members of the clergy. Don't steal livestock or kill animals for no reason. But if you need something to eat, go ahead. Be my guest. Don't rob, assault, or kidnap random people. Don't burn down or destroy houses unless there's a good reason. Don't assist criminals. Don't attack women unless they give you a reason, and don't ambush unarmed knights from Lent to Easter. That's, for the most part, some of the biggest rules that they had to follow. There's nothing here that says, there's some reverence you got to pay to womanhood or some shit like that. Like, I don't have any disrespect or disdain for women. I just think it's not fair that we live in a culture that gives them so many damn privileges and, gives them preference in relation to family court, in relation to believability when it comes to crime and the commission of crime, when it comes to punishment for crimes that they have committed. I don't think that's fair, and then I don't like how women use the system in order to get what they want. I think that's unjust. But as far as I'm concerned, like, I have no reverence for it any more than I have a reverence for any man. I don't treat women like infants, nor do I treat them like goddesses. They're human beings, man, just like we are. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. So imagine me giving deference to a motherfucker that takes a shit like I do. Why? On account that they were born with genitalia that's different than mine? Why? They're human beings, right? So, that's hey, it is what it is, man. Y'all can keep doing whatever y'all want to do, man. You can keep paying the bills. You can you can put on the cape as much as you want to. You can defer and infantilize, treat them like they children and shit like that. Because that's what you do to children, right? You make sure that they're protected, right? You do that to people who can't do that for themselves. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying treat them any worse than you treat anybody else, any of your brethren, but don't treat them special. For what? They're not going to treat you special, so why treat them special? And that's what they called for anyway. That's what they said they wanted anyway, right? Don't pedestalize, don't infantilize, don't subordinate, treat us as equals. So having said all that, man, I'm about to be about this joint, man. I'm just coming in, letting y'all know chivalry is not what you think it is, man. Thank you, Brotherly Love 215. And if you like the content you hear on the Green Gorilla channel, please support the fucking channel, man. Straight up. Thank you, Brotherly Love, man. Appreciate that. And tomorrow I'm going to come on and I'm going to do a show. Because I'm really getting tired of this shit. I'm beginning to hear it more and more often. That, like, people like myself who exist in the space, like, this is only, something that is required of people like myself as well. Thank you, Charles Rich. I got to talk about this shit because it's starting to get on my fucking nerves, man. And I really mean this, man. Thank you, Charles Rich. Appreciate that. Let me give you a bomb for that shit, man. Give Brotherly Love a bomb. And thank you, BGS. Appreciate that, bro. Appreciate that. I'm getting tired of motherfuckers asking for persons like myself who exist in the space, particularly like a person who has like a degree. I mean, it ain't like I'm throwing this shit around like, I'm better than anybody else who does content or any other men in the space. Never have I once said, oh, you got to defer to my authority. Like I know all and every fucking thing. I've never said that. Thank you, Ghetto Ish 49. Appreciate that, bro. I've never come out and made a statement like that. But the thing is, motherfuckers requiring me to be Martin Luther King Jr. or some shit. Or like I'm like Booker T. Washington. Or like I'm supposed to be Marcus Garvey or some shit. Like I'm unilaterally, I'm supposed to be Moses and solve the problem of black men in one fell fucking swoop. Me, by myself. I'm on the hook to do that shit. Like why you even appoint me as the figurehead to do some shit like that? Not to say that I can't help or contribute in my own way. And then, look, I'm going to talk about that shit tomorrow, but it's beginning to piss me off to hear guys tell me, well, I want solutions. Well, where the fuck are your solutions then? I want action. Where the fuck are your actions? I mean, these guys ain't doing a goddamn thing but demanding that I fucking, step up and part the Red Sea or some shit. Like I'm just supposed to break the whole fucking system down by thinking about it. By, like I'm supposed to just all of a sudden develop the game plan and we all support, like I'm fucking a coach at the NBA and we supposed to figure it all out. And if I did have it figured out already, most of you motherfuckers wouldn't move in that direction no way. Real talk. Damn right, BGS. And it ain't necessarily about bread. This ain't about bread. But you would need support. Look, let me just say this in passing before I leave. And anybody, if you feel like like I'm saying some shit that's extra or whatever the case may be, okay, cool. But tomorrow, I want smoke. I want motherfuckers who disagree with what I got to say. I want y'all to come on like BGS do AMA. I want my AMA smoke. I want motherfuckers to ask me anything. No, I ain't brotherly love. I'm not talking about the one dude, Nigel, man. That was just some bullshit right there. I'm gonna talk about him tomorrow too. This guy basically, well, I don't believe your credentials. Like, bro, man, look, bruh. If that ain't some racist shit, we don't like the darky who's not saying what the fuck we find acceptable, so I question your credentials. Like, what type of shit is that? That's like the epitome of hubris and fucking racist bullshit. That's elitism right there. I don't believe you have a degree. I don't think you have one. Who the fuck are you? Like this guy Nigel, whatever his name is. I'll talk about that and I'll let people see it and talk about that in depth tomorrow. Like, in other words, if the nigga don't say what I want him to say, I don't believe he has the credentials. I'm like, what the fuck is, like, what are you guys on? Like, you don't like gangsters. You don't like intellectuals. You don't like, Pookies and Ray Rays or whatever. What the fuck do you like? Who is, you don't like entertainers. And one can argue like the biggest class of business persons that come out of the mud in our community and have corporations and shit like that feed dozens of people. They are the fucking entertainers. They are members of the business class. Whether you like it or not. You don't like them motherfuckers. You don't like the athletes. Who the fuck do you like? I'm beginning to think a lot of black men in this space don't like black men the goddamn selves. You don't like your own kind. And one of the things I've begun to notice, man, and let me say this shit, right? Let me say this shit, bro. One of the biggest problems with black men is that black men, their whole life is centered around women. Like their idea of being a man is to go off and couple up with a woman and reproduce and, you know, live a domestic life or some shit like that. Like that's the extent to which their manhood stretches. That's as far as their manhood goes. Just peep game, man. When you sit around with a whole bunch of guys at a bar or some shit and see the conversations they got. It's probably gonna be about some pussy. Or something else. It ain't gonna be about, okay, the business venture we starting. It ain't gonna be about, okay, the political party we're a member of and what we doing in the political party. It ain't gonna be about a collectivity of men coming together to make shit happen. It's gonna be about some bullshit. Dad, look at that bitch right there. Look at this. Look at that fat old ass. How you gonna move anything? Like, how do you expect to be respected if that's the only shit that is your barometer of what your success is? That's all. Like, it starts and ends there. And that's a problem. Think about the guys who came over to America and colonized this motherfucker. Not to say that they ain't have women, but god damn it, they wasn't like, okay, well, dear, I need your permission to go take this fucking land from these Native Americans. Hun, do you think it's okay? Can I please get a permission to go out there and go do that? Huh? And the thing is, you can't do that type of shit if you don't have solidarity amongst men. There is no way that you can go out and do anything in relation to a military occupation, a campaign, or anything, unless there is order, discipline, and a univocal vision among men. That's the only way it happens. The only way it happens. But you, like BGS said a long time ago, man, you know, fucking with dudes, man. And it be the dudes that say they the most alpha. Alpha in what way? Because when it's all said and done, it all turns back around to their manhood being validated by a woman. How can you be a real man if your only concept of manliness comes to you from the desires of a woman? How? Now, I know they are part of us biologically. I understand that. And I understand people sometimes understand what one thing is by making a distinction between it and something that's different from it. I get that. But goddamn. Too many motherfuckers walking around seeking validation from chicks, man. Too many, man. I'm the head honcho. Head honcho of what? I got an alpha strategy. No shade to the dude, but I'm like, how's that a strategy? There's a lot of hurt dudes out here, motherfuckers trying to give dudes game on how to be successful with women. Man, fuck all that. Be successful, the women will come. How about that shit? Be successful. The women will fuck with you when you are successful. Have confidence. Do something in the world apart from their validation, and then you will be validated. You seek for approval, 9 times out of 10, the approval ain't gonna come to you. But you constantly trying to jockey and curry favor, that's like a brown noser. Not saying fuck them, but I'm saying, god damn, bro. Ain't nothing wrong with it, but God damn it, man, we have made, that's like Dr. Johnson said the other day. Men need to know when to walk away. Your leverage is in walking away. Like, fuck this shit. I don't have no obligation to do this. I don't have an obligation to help you out while you being a fucking shrew. For what? So anyway, man, I'm going to talk about this shit tomorrow because I got some bones to pick. Because I'm going to tell you what the solutions are. I'll tell you tomorrow. It's only about 4 or 5 solutions to get out of this shit. And it could be either collective or individual. Which route you want to take. That rests on you. But I'm tired of hearing guys tell me I got to be the one to solve the shit. Like I'm supposed to start a business or something and have like 7 million Negroes working in the business. And therefore, you know, like I'm actually the big nigga in charge or something. The head nigga in charge. Come on, man. It don't even make sense. So anyway, man, I bid y'all farewell, man. It's Friday. Have a good one. Thank you, brothers, for coming out. I'll holler at y'all the next one, bro. Peace. That's a bomb for me leaving. I'll holler at y'all on the next one. Peace.